The 16th Amendment. How a country born from a tax revolt got an income tax and gave up privacy protections. The 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was ratified on February 3, 1913. It says, "The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes, from whatever source derived, without apportionment among the several states, and without regard to any census or enumeration." It removed strict limits on federal taxing powers imposed by the founders. This amendment gave Congress the power to tax people's income without having to divide the tax equally among all states based on their population. America was born from a tax revolt. When Britain imposed the 1765 Stamp Act on American colonists, Patrick Henry and other Americans fought back hard. The rallying cry, "No taxation without representation," and a crucial element of the American Revolution was born and inspired acts of resistance and protest, such as the Boston Tea Party. The framers who wrote the Constitution were suspicious of government power, especially the power to tax. At the 1787 Constitutional Convention, the war involving British taxes was fresh in the delegates' memories. Limiting the taxing power of the new government was an important goal. Suspicion of government taxation is in the American DNA. As a result, the Constitution established specific limitations on Congress's power to tax through several key provisions. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, the Taxing Clause. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, but all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. This clause grants Congress broad taxing power, but includes the crucial limitation that indirect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises must be uniform throughout the United States. Next is the Apportionment Clause. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union according to their respective numbers. This provision limited direct taxes to those apportioned among the states based on population. Apportionment meant that a state with 10% of the national population would be required to pay 10% of the total direct tax imposed on the country. The direct tax limitation. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census. This clause reinforced the apportionment requirement for direct taxes, specifically mentioning capitation head taxes. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 5, the export tax prohibition. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. This provision completely prohibited Congress from taxing exports from any state. The Constitution, in keeping with the spirit of the American Revolution, has more provisions limiting government taxing power than granting the power. Consistent for a country with a tax revolt in its evolutions, for America's first 86 years, there was no federal income tax at all. The government got its money primarily from the indirect taxes of tariffs, taxes on goods brought in from other countries, and excise taxes, taxes on specific products like whiskey and tobacco. When the Civil War started in 1861, the government needed money fast. Congress created the first income tax, which started as a flat 3% on incomes over $800 and later became a graduated tax. This meant that higher earners paid higher rates. Something amazing happened in 1868 that would never happen today. When the war ended, Congress completely got rid of the income tax. In 1894, Congress imposed a new income tax of 2% on incomes over $4,000. This was part of the Soak the Rich movement, the idea that wealthy people should pay more taxes. A man named Charles Pollock sued the government, saying the income tax was an unconstitutional direct tax that was not apportioned among the states. In 1895, the Supreme Court agreed with Mr. Pollock and said income taxes were unconstitutional direct taxes that had to be apportioned among the states. The Constitution's direct tax apportionment restriction made income taxes practically impossible. After the 1895 Pollock decision, Democrats, led by William Jennings Bryan, made the imposition of income taxes a central campaign issue, arguing that the Supreme Court had protected wealthy elites at the expense of working people. The 1896 Democratic platform explicitly called for a constitutional amendment to enable income taxation, making it a partisan issue. Progressive politicians kept pushing for imposition of income taxes. In 1909, President William Howard Taft was against the income tax, but Democrats kept calling Republicans the party of the rich. To counter the Democrat claims, Taft decided to pursue what he thought was a smart political move. Instead of fighting a new income tax law, Taft proposed a constitutional amendment. He thought this was safe because amendments need approval from 3/4 of the states, 36 states back then. Taft and the Republicans were sure the states would never approve it, and they could combat the party of the rich label. Taft's plan went terribly wrong. Since few politicians wanted to look like they were siding with the rich folks, the amendment passed Congress easily. The Senate voted 77-0, and the House vote was 318-14. On July 12, 1909, after just 5 hours of debate, Congress sent the proposed 16th Amendment to the states. President Taft's clever plan backfired spectacularly as state after state approved the amendment. On February 3, 1913, Delaware became the 36th state to ratify it, making the 16th Amendment part of the Constitution. With the 16th Amendment's ratification, Congress was granted the power to tax people's income, without having to divide the tax equally among all states based on population, doing away with one of the most powerful governmental limitations from the original Constitution. The 16th Amendment overturned the 1895 Supreme Court decision and clearly said income taxes don't have to be apportioned among states by population, changing the character of the government created by America's founders. The 16th Amendment stands out as uniquely different from the prior 15 amendments in that it specifically removed constitutional constraints on federal power. The Bill of Rights was primarily about limiting government authority. The 1st through 10th Amendments all restrict the government. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were fundamentally about protecting individual rights and limiting state government's ability to interfere with Americans' rights. The income tax gave the federal government a massive new source of money. This let the government engage in new programs, expand its role in people's lives, fund wars, and other activities around the world. The amendment empowered Congress to designate April 15th a day most Americans dread, except perhaps for accountants and tax attorneys. The 16th Amendment allowed the complex tax system we have today. What started as a simple idea in 1913 has become one of the most complex legal systems ever created. The core tax code, over 6,000 pages and 4 million words. Tax regulations, over 17,000 pages as of 2024. Total federal tax laws, over 10 million words. Tax law interpretations, about 15,000 pages. Complete tax reference books, 70,000 pages. Congress started using the tax code, not just to raise revenue, but to influence people's behavior. Instead of just raising money, they added credits, deductions, and exemptions that impact personal decisions about education, energy use, healthcare, marriage, choice of housing, having children, retirement, charitable giving, and more. What was once a simple way to collect money became a complicated system of rewards and punishments. This complexity imposes burdens on American families and businesses. Americans spend 7.1 billion hours each year on tax compliance, record keeping, and filing. Average person spends 13 hours and $290 filing taxes. Many people must hire professionals just to file their taxes. That's a huge burden on businesses and people. The tax code is so big and complicated that even tax professionals can't understand all of it. With millions of words spread across thousands of pages, true compliance may be impossible. The Founding Fathers wrote the Fourth Amendment to protect people's privacy, the right to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects. The income tax system changed the level of privacy Americans have. Now the government can look at everyone's personal financial information, something that would have shocked the Founding Fathers. This level of government control over personal choices represents a huge change from the limited government the Constitution was designed to create. The 16th Amendment was the result of President Taft's political mistake. Republican leaders thought they were making a safe move that would end talk of income taxes forever. Instead, they gave the federal government its most powerful tool. The amendment that was never supposed to pass has been affecting American families for over 110 years. The 16th Amendment transformed America from a country where most people never dealt with federal taxes into one where most Americans must file a tax return every year. It shows how government power, once given, tends to grow far beyond what anyone originally promised. The politicians who voted to soak the rich over a century ago likely did not imagine the complex, expensive, privacy-invading system their decision would create while they were relinquishing hard-won protections for liberty originally in the Constitution. Join the battle to combat constitutional illiteracy. Like and share this video, and subscribe to Constitutional Soundbites.